starting around Thanksgiving. So we'll send out a message when students can update. We're waiting until we make sure that it works with all of our testing apps and those kinds of things before we allow students to update. But I've been updated for over a month now, and I tell you, there's really nothing that I've run into that's a problem. And we're going to go over all the fun, cool things that iOS 15 has to offer. So I think I know everybody here. So real quick, why don't we just wrap around and just say your name, what school you're at, and what you teach, or if you're in a different position, you can mention that as well. Anybody can go first.
I'm Robin Sobine. I teach at West Middle School, and I teach 6th grade reading and language arts.
Gwen Chase, I'm the Dean of Students at West.
We'll keep the West going. I'm Nicole Murray. I'm a 7th grade U.S. Studies teacher.
I'm Julie Phillips. I'm the assistive technology specialist for the district for special ed.
I'm Stephanie Sampson. I'm art and business over at East.
Monica Miller, learning, teaching, and equity coach.
To my left, Suzanne O'Neill, East Connections class.
Right. Connections class. That's a new one this year, right?
Yeah, it is.
It is.
It's fun.
Okay.
It's good. It's really good.
Good. It's good to hear. So Cara and I are going to be doing these hopefully like once a month, doing a little presentation, show you a little something, give you a little chance to chew on something new, and then we'll record them so that we can post them on YouTube for the people that weren't able to make it. So again, we're going to be talking about iOS 15, and we're going to go over a number of different features. And the reason that we think this is really important is because your students use their devices every single day. It's important for you to be familiar with how they function. And there's some pretty both awesome upgrades and also some things that I think are going to be just useful for students to know. And so you being aware of them can help inform our students as well. So we're going to talk about multitasking, kind of having a couple different things up on your screen at the same time. Focus, which is kind of a new word for, or new term for, do not disturb mode, which is another wonderfully useful tool, underutilized perhaps. We're going to show you something called the app library, which if you've had an iPhone before, you might be more familiar with this. They brought it to the iPad. We're going to look at some translation tools, which are fantastic for our EL students. We're going to look at Safari and how you can kind of organize it in a different way. And we're going to look at widgets, which are little kind of little apps that show up on your home screen. And then we'll answer some questions and kind of hear your feedback on what kinds of things you are interested to dive into more, or things that you see your students using this in class, that kind of thing. So the first one is multitasking, and this is something that has been available on iPads for a while. Some of you maybe know that you can have two apps up at the same time called split view. They made it way easier, and that's probably the easiest way to say it. So if you have iPad iOS 15 updated, whenever you're in an app, what you see is these three little dots along the top of your screen, and it gives you the option to put an app into kind of full screen mode, put it into split view, or have it kind of in slide over mode, I think is what it calls it. So those three options are displayed on the top of my iPad here. And if I tap on the middle option there, it's going to do split view. So I can open an app and have another app open as well. So then it goes, okay, what other app do you want to have open? I'm going to open up Google Docs. Okay. And wait for my iPad. So then now I have my keynote presentation open on one side, and I've got my Google Notes or Google Docs open on the other side. And it was just so much easier to do than trying to like drag stuff up from the bottom of the screen or pull things over from the side. It's just easier. So I'm going to just make my Keynote go into full screen mode here again, because I skipped ahead a couple slides by mistake. So that
Eric,
multitasking.
you should go back and show the floating if you're not going to.
Oh, yeah.
You should
Do
show
that too. You like that one a lot more than I do. So if you tap on those three dots along the top there and tap on the rightmost button, it gives you the option to have slide over. And so what I have here is my Keynote. Oh, it's kind of lagging up here. Yeah. So I have this Keynote app open and it's kind of just floating on top of a different app. And then I can actually move this across the screen if my iPad wasn't lagging because I'm on a Google Meet and trying to do too many things at once. But it lets me move this little slide over window all over the screen if I want to be looking at a website and then be taking a note, for example, or something like that. So
And you can kind of swipe it so it goes just way over to the margin and then pull it back out again.
yeah, it's not letting me do anything right now
Okay.
because I'm in our Google Meet and it's just like, no,
But it's pretty
you're trying to
cool,
do too much. Yeah. So moving through this, skip ahead. Okay. So the next thing we're going to look at is the focus feature. This is one that everybody needs to do this for their own devices too. If you have an iPhone, this is a really useful thing. Focus allows you to basically put your phone or your iPad or your MacBook in do not disturb mode, but it lets you customize it a little bit more. So instead of it just blocking out all notifications whatsoever, it lets you customize what notifications you want to come through. So you could, let's say you teach at the middle school level and you have an advisory group in front of you, you could show them how to create a focus for school. So it could look something like this, where you call it school. You can select certain apps that you want to allow notifications to come through on, like maybe Infinite Campus and Canvas, but you can turn off all other notifications from other apps. And then you can also schedule it to come on at a certain period of time. So in this particular example, I have it scheduled to come on exactly when school runs. And then when school's out, it just automatically will turn off. So you can schedule it to do that, but then also, like I said, just pick the specific apps you want to come through on those little pop-up banners and what have you, and kind of hide the rest of it so that you aren't distracted by all those little pop-ups on your screen. So something to consider. I definitely recommend exploring it as just an adult to, I don't know, keep your focus and not get distracted by pop-ups and all those things on your phone or on your iPad or your MacBook, all those things. The app library is the next thing I'm going to show you. And I might actually exit my Keynote to show you that one. But I was working with a student who updated to iPadOS 15, and he said, whoa, where did all my apps go? I don't know where they went. I can't find them. And he was confused on kind of this change that occurs with iPad OS 15. And so you can see here I've got a number of different pages of apps. I spend way too much time testing apps. And then if I scroll all the way over to the right, I have this thing called the app library that pops up. And it's also in the lower right-hand corner of my screen. So I can also just tap on it to get to it as well. And this automatically generates folders for you to organize your stuff. So you don't have to create folders yourself. And you can tap on where it says app library and also search for an app on your iPad to find it and pull it up easier as well. The other thing is that let's say you have an app that you don't want, maybe you want to kind of clean up your home screen a little bit so that you don't have like me, a bunch of pages of apps. You can choose whether or not an app is displayed on the home screen. So let's see. Right now I can move my apps around right now because I press down on one and I'm editing the home screen. Let's say I don't want this app to show up. I can just remove it from the home screen, but it's still on my iPad for the rare event that I actually need it. And so if I go into my app library, I can both see that it's, I clicked on it. I can see that it's still sitting in my app library, but I can hide it off my home screen. So on my own iPhone, I set it up so that I only have 2 pages of apps, even though I have like 7,000 apps on my phone. And in the rare event that I need, I don't know, I said the Minneapolis parking app, which I needed last weekend. I can hide it, and then the one time I actually need it, I can just pull it up and find it in my app library. So just kind of a nice little organizational thing, but it's also like, oh, wait, where did it go? Where's that app I was looking for? I can search through the app library to find it. Back to the keynote. All right, I'm going to stop there. Any questions so far? I'm going to practice my wait time.
If something comes up, you can always throw it in the chat too. I have that open.
Yep. All right. Next, we're going to dive into the translation features on the iPad, and this one is huge. This is probably my favorite of all of the updates, honestly, other than maybe the multitasking. I don't know. There is now an app on everyone's iPad, or will be when they update, called Translate. And it's kind of like Google Translate, but it has some kind of unique functions to it. And so you can see on my screen here, I've got it set up where I can have a conversation, which is what's selected on the left. And then you choose which languages you're going to have this conversation with. So maybe I'm going to be speaking in English and someone is speaking to me in Spanish. I can tap on that microphone and have a conversation, and it will translate it. And then I can also click on it and see that translation and have it read back to me as well. One other thing that Cara and I were playing around with this morning is that you can make it. This is kind of, it looks funny on your screen probably, but you can set it up where you could have a kind of conversation where you're holding your iPad like this, and then there's another person standing in front of you. So you're looking at each other face to face. You tap on the microphone, you say whatever you're going to say. On their side of the screen, it translates it for them into whatever language they selected. And then they can talk in whatever language they're speaking in. And on your side of the screen, you see what they said. So it shows you this back and forth conversation. And the translation's pretty good. We did have Kara's Russian was especially good. As you can see on the screen here, she said, "I have a cat," which I was impressed by. Or maybe, who was that? Was that Brandy?
That was Brandy. The one thing we noticed is that it doesn't recognize names that well. It tries to translate some names into words, but for our simple experiment, it was pretty good.
The other thing that that translate functions can do now on an iPad is in any app, if you select text, so if you hold down, get it all highlighted in blue, you're going to see a translate button pop up. And so you could be in Canvas, you could be in Safari, you could be in any app you can think of. If you can select the text, then you'll have a little button where it says translate, and it will translate that into whatever language you want. You can also have it spoken as well. So you see right next to the translate button, it's kind of small on my screen here, but you can also have it says speak next to the translate button. The other piece is on a website. So let's say you're on the web and a student wants to translate an entire page. I think there's just some great things in Safari that get overlooked quite often. So if you look along the address bar of this screenshot that I have in here, there are, on the left-hand side of the address bar, are 2 little A's. And if you tap on that, it gives you a bunch of different options. You can make the font size bigger on the web page. You can tap on something called Reader View, which basically strips away ads and links and just junk on the web page and cleans it up so that all you're seeing is the text and any images that you want students to see. So if they're on the web, I highly recommend that you tap on Reader View. It's just easier to look at and read. And then there's also the translation function right there. So you tap on Translate to Spanish in this example, and it will translate the entire web page into whatever language I choose. So pretty slick, pretty easy to use. And I just love that it's embedded everywhere now on the iPad. Okay. We're going to keep going since we're talking about Safari. There is a little sidebar button in the upper left-hand corner of Safari that you can tap on now and create groups of tabs. And what I mean by a group is you could, let's say you're doing a research project and you have a number of tabs open and you want to save those tabs. You don't want to close them all. You can create a group of tabs, lump all of your research articles into a group, and then create a separate group, and maybe that's for your other classes that you're in. You could also use this, and I would encourage students to use this to group and get rid of their things that they're looking at that are maybe not school related, so that they can keep it separate from the things that they're doing for class. So on this example, I have home, where it had like a couple, I don't know, like ESPN and stuff. And then I had one for school, which has Canvas and Google. So you can kind of clump your tabs together and organize them a little bit better and maybe keep work away from play and what have you. Cara, do you want to elaborate on that one? No. Okay. All right. Another new feature is widgets. And they've had widgets in the past, but they've made it a little bit easier to add them, and they've added a number of options. So if you hold down anywhere on the home screen of your iPad and all the apps start wiggling, in the upper left-hand corner, a little plus sign will pop up. And that plus sign, if you tap on it, it's going to give you a number of different widgets that you can add to your home screen. So you can see on that iPad, there's a calendar and a clock and the weather. There's also a Canvas widget. So you can have students add that Canvas widget to their home screen. And what it does is it shows them grades on assignments that they've recently had graded. There's one for announcements as well. So if teachers are using announcements frequently, you can add announcements right to the home screen of your course. You don't actually have to open the student app in order to see those things. It just pops up on your home screen. So any other useful widgets out there, Cara, that you like?
I was saying for my personal pleasure, I like it's kind of a photo of the day. So it just randomly grabs photos off my phone, and then we can be like, "Aw, that one's fun." I have a calendar. I'm just like Eric on my phone. I cleaned it up. I just had 2 pages, and there's just a few apps and a few widgets, and everything else is in the app library. But I have like calendar. It shows me everything today and tomorrow. I have, weather widget, so I can glance at it. New York Times cooking, so I can see the recipe of the day. And the homework widget, so I can see the movies that are coming up. It's Christmas movie season.
Yeah, I don't have that one. I'll have to take that.
Weird.
And that's it as far as updates for iOS 15. So kind of curious, for those of you that got your wheels turning a little bit, what are some ways that you could see your students using some of these updates in class? Anyone want to share?
I will. I love the idea of the tabs that they can save in Safari, because we're always trying to, copy and paste a website address that they can go back to and put it somewhere so they don't forget where it is. And what was that page again? I'm like, I don't know. You had 8 of them out yesterday, you
Mhm.
know? So I think that'll be really helpful when it comes time for research. So that'll be really cool.
Yeah, and it also gives you like kind of an easier view too. So if you, there's like this little tile view that I can tap on. And the nice part about that is then you can see kind of a glance of those sites and then, you know, easily go, oh, which one was I looking for again? And you can kind of scroll through it a little bit easier. So I kind of did a couple different ones here. This is home, this is school. I always found like students would open Safari and they'd have something like totally not school related, not necessarily like inappropriate, but something they were doing at home. And it's like, you, now your head is there. It's not on whatever, what it's supposed to be on. So good way to separate things out a bit.
We hit our 20 minutes. So if you need to go, that's great. We are trying to keep these brief, but if there's something you want to share that, you know, you're excited about, we'd love to hear it. And if everyone has at least one thing they can walk away with, then it's a win. So